Hey, today we're doing a bit of work on a 99 Landcruiser. It's got the A343F transmission in it, and what's happening at high speed is getting a shift between top gear and third gear, jumping in and out occasionally, mainly when it warms up. Now if you have a look at this cable here, it comes from the transmission, goes up here, and you can see it's quite loose. There is a little stop there. Just slide that off. We've got the accelerator cable here, and that one's a little bit loose. So we can start off with just making sure that's adjusted up where it should be. If you do any work like this, it's always good to mark it with a bit of liquid paper or a texter, so you have a reference point when you're adjusting things, you know you can put them back. So we'll just take the pan off. You can see these have the long filler tube that goes or joins up halfway there, so make sure you clean around that before you pull it apart. And also you might have to take this little section off the exhaust off, just so you're able to lower that pan down. Now there are, well, basically without taking the transmission out, there are three things that you can check or do to make the shift feel a little bit better on these. First one is obviously the solenoids. Make sure that they're all operating properly, they're sealing properly, they're not leaking, they're not contaminated. I've got that in other videos on my channel there if you care to check out how to flush and clean test solenoids. Another one is the kickdown cable. You can see that one there is quite loose. See that can be adjusted a little bit. Even if we adjusted that accelerator cable, it's still not going to be able to pull that all the way because that cable's loose. So it's worth adjusting that cable a little bit. And the third one is, now I've just pushed it in and the little pin fell out, but over here you've got the pressure regulator, and you'll have a look at the end of it. You can see there are little notches there, and basically the notch that's the highest out is going to push that spring in harder in there, and you're going to increase the line pressure in the whole transmission by just rotating that. You can rotate it with a screwdriver. I just pushed it in and the little pin fell out. I'll show you what the pin looks like. But it was on that middle notch there. If you want to decrease the pressure, you'll put it down on that lowest notch height. And if you want to increase it, you put it on the highest notch height. There's a little pin there that just holds it. So make sure you don't lose that if you're adjusting it. But what you do is you just push it in with the screwdriver while supporting this so it doesn't fall out, and you just rotate that to where you want it, if you want to back off the pressure or increase the pressure. Hope that makes sense. Okay, we've flushed, tested the solenoids. They're not leaking, but you can see how much muck came out of there. Always remember to flush them out properly, you've got to actually pull them apart. Next best to do would be to demagnetize it and then flush it out, and you might need to do that a few times to get it all out. You can see it had a fair bit of fine metal in there. Make sure the little rubber O-rings are sealing properly as well, and also when you're bolting them onto the valve body, just make sure you're pushing it in as far as it'll go, because these brackets, you can see how long it is, so it does actually flex a little bit when it gets pressure under it. It'll flex that solenoid. Not so much that one. That one's got 2 brackets on it. And as per usual, we're going to leave these magnets up on those little ridges there, just so you can get better surface area exposed to the magnet. It'll collect more rubbish. And we're going to add one of these neodymium magnets just on its edge there. There was a bit of fine metal in there, and it's done nearly 400,000 kilometres. When you're putting the pan on, make sure you put all the bolts in first before you tighten it up. It'll just help not misalign that gasket and seal better. Also, I forgot to add those filters. There are 2 different types. I think there's a 3-bolt one and a 4-bolt one, so make sure you get the one that you need for your vehicle. And also the O-ring up here, just make sure that's sealing properly. All back together. I've got the exhaust back on. Make sure you double check your work, especially if you need to remove brackets and that sort of thing. Just got to put this stone guard back on here, the plastic stone guard that was blocking the access to the bolts on the exhaust. Now we can fill it with oil. Oh, and if you've drained the oil out of the plug there, make sure that that's tight too. Now I'm just pressing the accelerator all the way down to the floor. And the accelerator is actually adjusted okay. So now we can just let it go. Just adjust this kickdown cable a little bit. And you can see the little mark there where the road dirt or the rust was. So I've actually pushed it, tightened it up a little bit. And I've just got to push this little rubber dust protector over it, just so it doesn't get stuck on here when we're testing it or driving it. Yeah, press it right down. And that still can go a lot tighter than that if you need to. But we're not going to have enough thread anyway, but you can tighten it up a bit. I'm going to go for a road test now. Let it go. You can see that's just when I had this off, that that was just, there was no slack in that cable, but you can tighten it a little bit more if you need to. You want to also check that all these bushes and everything on the throttle linkages there aren't worn or broken. Sometimes those little plastic sleeves and bushes break, and sometimes people, I don't know why, but they bend these brackets as well, and it throws everything out. They're sort of set to a ratio, and once you change something, it changes the whole configuration. We've got about 5 litres, we put 5 litres of Dextron 3. You can put full synthetic fluid in there, but the full synthetic fluid is actually a little bit thinner than the Dextron 3, so if you have internal pressure leaks, which this one probably has, it's going to be operating a lot better with the slightly thicker oil than the thinner oil, even though synthetic fluids have a lot better properties than the Dextron 3. Make sure you also check the oil level at operating temperature. You want to make sure it's in between the low and the hot mark. There's like a little notch there on the filler tube. At the moment it's a little bit above the top cold mark, so I'll take it for a run anyway and warm it up and see how this is operating. I may need to just tweak it a little bit. I hope that's helped. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or leave comments in the section below the video. If you want to check out the solenoid flushing, you can check that out in another video. Thank you for watching.